In prison, food is never just food. It arrives the same way every time on a tray. Plastic. Scratched. Divided into sections that silently dictate what you're allowed to have and how much you're allowed to want. The tray itself becomes familiar long before the food does. Same shape. Same weight. Same dull color. And once you see it enough times, you understand something quickly. This tray isn't designed for comfort, it's designed for control. Meals by the clock, not by hunger. In prison, hunger doesn't decide when you eat. The clock does. Breakfast often comes before sunrise, sometimes as early as 4 or 5 in the morning. The body isn't ready, but that doesn't matter. Lunch arrives when breakfast hasn't fully settled. Dinner comes so early it barely feels like dinner at all, sometimes mid-afternoon. After that, there is nothing. No late meals, no snacks, no flexibility, from early evening until the next morning. Hunger stretches long and uninterrupted, and this schedule never changes. Weekdays, weekends, holidays, the body learns to adapt, but the discomfort never fully disappears. Hunger becomes a background presence, quiet, constant, always there. The tray line when mealtime comes, movement is controlled. People line up. The line moves at the same pace every day. Trays slide across metal counters with mechanical efficiency. No one asks what's for dinner. They already know. Menus rotate, but only slightly. The options are limited. The combinations repeat. Protein is usually processed. Vegetables are often overcooked. Bread is dense and filling, sometimes the most reliable item on the tray. Milk comes in small cartons. Fruit, when included, is inconsistent, sometimes underripe, sometimes bruised. Dessert is rare and modest. There are no seconds, no substitutions, no exceptions. You eat what's given, or you don't eat at all. Portions and psychology. The portions are measured, carefully calculated, never generous. They are designed to meet minimum nutritional standards, not emotional ones, enough to keep the body functioning, not enough to feel satisfied. This is where the psychology of prison food begins. Hunger sharpens awareness. It makes time move slower. It keeps people focused on the next meal. Food becomes something to anticipate, not enjoy. And because it's limited, it gains importance far beyond nutrition. When food becomes a reminder, every tray is a reminder of where you are. The uniformity, the lack of choice, the predictability. On the outside, food represents freedom, culture, comfort, celebration. Inside, it represents structure. Meals mark the day. They divide time into manageable pieces. Breakfast means the day has started. Lunch means time has passed. Dinner means the longest stretch of hunger is coming. Food becomes a clock. Quality vs. function. Prison food is designed for scale. Thousands of meals prepared at once. Budgets stretched thin. Ingredients chosen for shelf life, not flavor. Freshness is inconsistent. Seasoning is minimal. Texture is often uniform. This isn't accidental. Food that is too enjoyable invites expectation. Expectation invites complaint. Complaint invites disruption. So meals stay neutral, predictable, forgettable. They are not meant to satisfy, they are meant to maintain order. The first realization. For many incarcerated people, there's a moment early on when the realization sets in. This is it. This is how food will be for years, possibly decades. No favorite meals. No comfort foods. No celebrations through taste. Just repetition. And repetition wears on the mind. The unwritten rules of the tray over time, and spoken rules emerge. Some items are eaten first. Some are saved. Bread is rarely wasted. Anything filling is valued. People learn quickly what to keep and what to trade. A piece of fruit might be saved for later. Milk might be traded. Dessert, if present, might be currency. Even within the limitations, people create systems, because humans adapt even under restriction. Food as behavior control. Administrators understand the power of food. When meals are delayed, tension rises. When quality drops, morale follows. When portions shrink, conflict increases. Food isn't neutral. It influences mood, energy, and behavior. That's why meal schedules are rigid. That's why portions are controlled. That's why consistency matters more than quality. The tray becomes part of the institution's structure, the emotional distance over time. Many stop reacting to the food emotionally. They stop hoping for better. They stop expecting change. Meals become automatic. Eat quickly. Return the tray. Move on. But the body remembers the scarcity, even when the mind tries to ignore it. Why the tray matters from the outside, prison food seems insignificant. But inside, the tray touches every life, every day. It shapes routines. It affects health. It influences behavior. It reinforces control. And it teaches a lesson that stays long after release. Choice matters more than comfort, because when choice disappears, even basic needs feel heavy. Most people assume prison food is bad because it's cheap. That's not the real reason. The real reason is far more unsettling, because prison food is designed to change behavior. And once you understand how rations work, you begin to see something most people never notice. Food inside prison isn't just nourishment. It's leverage. The moment hunger becomes strategy, at first, hunger feels physical. A hollow feeling. Low energy. A constant awareness in the stomach. But after weeks, then months, hunger becomes something else. It becomes strategic. People stop asking, what do I want to eat? They start asking, how do I make this last? Meals are eaten fast, not out of enjoyment, but fear. Fear that time will be called. Fear that someone might bump the tray. Fear that this might be all you get. And slowly, a shift happens. Food stops being a meal. It becomes a resource. Why rations are never enough officially. Prison meals meet nutritional standards. And officially, they leave people just hungry enough to stay focused on the next tray. That's not an accident. Hunger keeps people predictable. It narrows focus. It reduces resistance. When your energy is low, rebellion feels expensive. Administrators know this, so portions stay carefully balanced, enough to prevent collapse, not enough to allow comfort. And when budgets tighten, the first thing to shrink is the tray. The day the portions change, ask anyone who's been incarcerated long enough. And they'll tell you, people notice immediately when portions change. A scoop slightly smaller. Bread thinner than usual. Protein stretched just a little more. No announcement, no explanation, just less. And when that happens, something shifts in the room. Conversations lower. Eyes watch closer. Tempers shorten. Because hunger doesn't just affect the body, it affects the entire environment. And when food feels uncertain, tension spreads fast. Commissary, where real survival begins. This is where commissary enters the story. On paper, commissary is optional. In reality, it's essential. Ramen noodles, peanut butter, instant coffee, tips, cookies. These items don't look powerful from the outside. Inside, they mean everything. They fill the hunger the tray leaves behind. They provide energy. They offer comfort. But more importantly, they create status. Food as currency inside prison. Money doesn't move the way it does on the outside. Food does. A soup packet can repay a favor. Coffee can buy protection. Snacks can settle disputes. And once food becomes currency, those who control it gain influence. People with outside support eat better. People without learn quickly who has what. Hunger creates hierarchy. And hierarchy creates power. The hidden economy. Where there is scarcity, there is trade. People trade portions. They trade commissary items. They trade future favors. Nothing is free. Every exchange carries memory. Debts are tracked. Promises are remembered. And food sits at the center of it all. This economy is unofficial but rigid. Break the rules. And consequences follow. Not from the institution, from the people around you. When hunger changes behavior, hunger makes people observant. It makes them careful. It makes them cautious. But it also makes people desperate. Small disagreements escalate faster. Personal space matters more. Respect becomes non-negotiable. Because when resources are limited, every interaction carries weight. Food shortages don't just cause discomfort, they increase conflict. And everyone knows it. The creation of spreads out of scarcity. Creativity emerges. People learn to cook without kitchens, without stoves, without utensils. Hot water becomes heat. Plastic bags become mixing bowls. Crushed chips become seasoning. They call these meals spreads, but spreads aren't really about food. They're about connection. Cooking together requires trust. Sharing food requires loyalty. For a brief moment, walls fade. People talk, laugh quietly, remember what normal feels like. And that moment matters more than the calories. Why spreads are risky, but even these moments carry danger. Because food that isn't sanctioned draws attention. Too much activity, too much sharing, too much cooperation. And when spreads are discovered, they're confiscated. No warnings, no exceptions. The message is clear. Control must remain with the institution. The emotional cost of scarcity over time. Hunger reshapes how people think. They stop wasting food. They stop trusting abundance. They start planning meals days ahead, even after release. Many carry these habits with them, eating fast, saving leftovers, feeling anxious when food is delayed. The body may leave prison, but hunger doesn't always follow. When food becomes a weapon, food can be used to reward compliance, and it can be used to punish. Meals delayed, portions reduced, quality lowered. These changes don't need explanations. Everyone understands the message, and because food affects everyone equally, it becomes one of the most effective tools of control. The question most people never ask. Here's the question most people on the outside never consider. What happens when food stops being enough? When rations shrink too far? When commissary runs out? When hunger stops being manageable? Because history shows us something unsettling. The fastest way to destabilize any controlled environment is to disrupt food, and inside prison walls. Everyone knows it. Cliffhanger ending CTA. Most people think prison food ends at the tray. It doesn't. Because the real impact of prison rations doesn't show up during incarceration. It shows up after. In how people eat. How they think. How they trust. How they survive. And once you understand what prison food does to the mind, you begin to realize something far more disturbing. Some effects don't disappear when the gates open. In Chapter 3, we uncover how prison food follows people long after release, and why freedom doesn't always erase hunger. Most people think the effects of prison end at the gate. They don't. Because long after the uniforms are gone, long after the schedules disappear, long after the trays stop coming, something else remains. And it hides in the most ordinary place imaginable. The kitchen, the grocery store, the dinner table. This is where prison food leaves its final mark. The first meal outside. For many people released after years of incarceration, the first meal outside is supposed to be symbolic. Freedom on a plate. Choice. Abundance. But what actually happens is far quieter. They sit down. They look at the food. And something feels wrong. Too many options. Too much food. Too much space. Some eat quickly, almost without tasting it. Others can't finish. Some feel uncomfortable ordering at all. Because when your body has learned scarcity, abundance feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar doesn't always feel safe. The habits that don't disappear. Prison food teaches habits that don't turn off automatically. Eating fast, saving food just in case, feeling anxious when meals are late, feeling uneasy, throwing food away. Even people who never struggled with food before incarceration notice it. Afterward, the body remembers what the mind tries to forget. Hunger trains survival instincts, and survival instincts don't disappear on command. When freedom feels unreal outside prison, food represents comfort. Inside prison, food represented control. That difference creates conflict. Formerly incarcerated individuals often described standing in grocery stores frozen by choice. Too many brands, too many flavors, too many decisions. What should feel empowering feels overwhelming. Some stick to the same items every time. Some buy only what feels familiar. Some avoid shopping altogether. Because choice, after years without it, requires relearning. The shadow of scarcity. Scarcity changes how people see the world. When food was limited, Nothing was wasted. Nothing was taken for granted. That mindset doesn't vanish. Many people carry quiet anxiety around food security long after release, even when they're stable. They check expiration dates obsessively. They store backups. They eat food even when they're not hungry. Because somewhere deep inside, the body is still preparing for loss. Food and dignity. One of the least discussed effects of prison food is how it reshapes dignity. Inside, eating is public. Rushed. Observed. There's no privacy. No personalization. No ritual. On the outside, meals are social. They carry meaning. For some, sitting at a table with others feels exposing. For others, eating alone feels safer. Something as simple as sharing a meal becomes emotional terrain, because food is tied to identity, and prison strip that identity away. The long-term health cost beyond psychology. Prison food leaves physical consequences. Years of processed meals, limited fresh options, inconsistent nutrition. Some leave prison with new health issues. Others struggle to rebuild healthy eating patterns. And when food choices were once controlled, managing diet afterward becomes another challenge. Freedom doesn't come with instructions. Why this story matters. Most conversations about prison focus on punishment. Few focus on aftermath. But incarceration doesn't end at release. It echoes. And food is one of the loudest echoes, because it touched every single day, every single person, without exception. It shaped routines, mood, energy, behavior, and it followed people home. The bigger question here's the question most people never ask. If food can shape behavior so deeply, what else does incarceration and change permanently? What parts of people are altered quietly, without notice? Because prison doesn't just take time, it rewires survival. The final realization. Food inside prison wasn't just about feeding bodies. It was about teaching lessons: scarcity, obedience, adaptation, control. And once learned, those lessons don't simply disappear. They live on in habits, in anxiety, in memory, in how people eat. Final payoff. So when someone says prison food is just bad meals, they're missing the point, because prison food isn't just about taste. It's about power. It's about control. It's about what happens when choice is removed, and what it takes to relearn it. And the most unsettling part, you don't see the damage right away. You see it years later, at a dinner table, with a full plate, and a body that still doesn't feel safe. If this story changed how you think about prison, there are more truths waiting to be told. Subscribe for the next story, because the real impact of prison doesn't end at the sentence, and neither do the stories.